So one of the things that was weird about this, I was recognised this morning by a subscriber, and he's from South Africa, and I said to him, I said, there's trouble out there, innit, a dark place. And he said, and this was terrifying, especially, I recently made a video about the Khmer Rouge, and I've been studying a lot more about it, because I might make a part 2. And, you know, I spent the majority of my adult life as a communist. I know a lot about that stuff. I know the excuses they make. I know the literal and figurative rivers of blood that run behind communism. And I said to him, it's a dark and dangerous place at the moment, isn't it, South Africa? And he said to me, he went, it's very communist. And it just, I find it incredible that communism in the universities, in state education, on television, in the media, the whole social justice thing is basically Marxism. I mean, the demonisation that the Nazis rightly get, but you know, they were going for about 12 years, and the numbers are sort of 10 million. It comes nowhere near the communist deaths. You know, Russia, the Soviet Union alone is something ridiculous, like 100 million. Mao's China, 60 million. And a lot of these, not just murder, but starvation because it doesn't work. And then Venezuela at the moment, they're eating their zoo animals, and the Khmer Rouge and all. And it's just, you know, and I know why. Communism gives you answers. It gives you very basic answers for young, nervous, angry, scared people. It's very superficial, though. The solutions are terrible. The analysis is quite good some of the time, but the solutions is bullshit. And it just worries me, and it made me think, it might be in the part 2 of the Khmer Rouge video, but how must people who've lived through that feel when they see the likes of Jeremy Corbyn at rallies with people behind them with the hammer and sickle, you know, these kids sort of, yay communism. And Justin Trudeau, apparently when he turned up at some convention with a fucking Che Guevara t-shirt on. You know, you hear the communists go on about the Bay of Pigs, Che Guevara and Fidel Castro. You know, that wasn't even a communist revolution. They named it afterwards. It was just a lot of blokes going in saying, we're going to get rid of your dictator. And once they'd established themselves, yeah, by the way, we're communists. You know, it's bullshit. But you know, people who've lived through that, people who lived through the Soviets and the Chinese and all the others, the Cambodians, and seeing the likes of Trudeau talking about Fidel Castro and how good he was a murdering, horrible bastard. And the way it's happening. We may see a communist century, a global communist century, and I warn you now. Read the Gulag Archipelago. Learn what people can do when they have equality forced upon them. Look what the individual has to do when it's being sacrificed for the collective. And it just struck me. And then we started talking about the YouTuber Independent Man. He stopped doing it. You know, he had nearly 100,000 subscribers, was getting about 1 million views a month. Very successful, and he stopped doing it because he said he's, you know, it's just too much time spent looking at some really sad, dangerous, scary stuff. You know, you're looking at the rise of communism, you're looking at social justice. You're called a racist, a Nazi, a fascist, a sexist, a misogynist every day. You know, and it builds up. And this bloke I met this morning said that he watches YouTube all the time, but he said sometimes he thinks it's pretty bad because he's continually engaging with really quite frightening and pessimistic stuff. And then my mate sent me this, and this is mind-blowing. And this is a really good example of where we've come, where we've got to as a society. And just watch this and try and have a bit of critical distance. Don't look at this from the bubble of ideology that we're in. You know, step back a bit. Imagine this happening 20 years ago. It just wouldn't have happened. So there was a coach crash and loads of people died, all right? So what, you know, watch.
In the wake of the Humboldt bus tragedy 1 week ago, a new Canadian GoFundMe record was set online. More than $10 million has been raised for players and the families affected. A freelance writer, though, named...
Right, so there's a GoFundMe to raise money for everyone affected, families and that of the people who died. And it broke records, millions. a great thing. What a lovely thing. You know, modern technology, the internet, crowdfunding being used so that people can give money. You know, no stupid middlemen charities creaming off their salaries, driving around in Rolls Royce and Porsches while they're dropping a couple of fucking bags of spaghetti off in Africa. People's money going to where it is needed, right? So that's a nice story. But then they mentioned this freelance writer who made this tweet. This, by the way, is CBC. This is the Canadian, I think this is the Canadian, their BBC. It's their state broadcaster, taxpayer-funded broadcaster.
Nora Loreto made a comment online about the outpouring of support, saying this 2 days after the crash.
Right, so this Nora Loreto, nobody, some freelance writer, we're all freelance writers. I'm trying to not get cynical about what is a totally devastating tragedy. Well, you're not trying that hard, are you? But the maleness, the youthfulness, and the whiteness of the victims are, of course, playing a significant role. So because they're men, because they're young, because they're white, fuck them, she's basically saying. It makes her cynical. Imagine making a tweet where he said, I'm trying not to get cynical about what is totally devastating, but you know, the femaleness and the blackness, or black women, it's making it very difficult. Oh, you'd probably be arrested. You'd probably, in England, that would probably, the old bill would be around your house for a hate crime and you'd be gone. So she wrote that, and it's on the Canadian broadcasting company, whatever it is, CBC, taxpayer-funded state TV program. So you're going to expect, as I did, they're going to do a show or a segment about that woman writing that, and about the fact that these people think they can say whiteness and maleness and youthfulness as if, oh, you know, fuck them. That's what you'd think.
I'm trying to not get cynical about what is a totally devastating tragedy, but the maleness, the youthfulness, and the whiteness of the victims are, of course, playing a significant role. Reaction to that message was swift, and it was angry.
Oh, hang on. We're not going to talk about the message. We're talking about the reaction to it. Interesting.
As of Wednesday, Laredo tweeted again, saying she had more than 7 million Twitter impressions. That's the number that actually generates interaction or replies from others.
Hang on, so someone said something on a public forum, Twitter, and people have responded. That's what Twitter is. This isn't news. What you're saying is a piece of software has worked. Someone said something in public and people in public replied. That's not a story.
Along with some praise, Laredo received a lot of online hate, including death threats and promises of boycotts against the publications she works for.
There's no death threats, by the way. You might have seen one back there said this could be what was it?
Along with some praise, Laredo received a lot of online hate, including death threats and promises.
That's what they mean by death threats. Not strict. When someone says death threat, you think they mean I'm going to come around there and kill you. I know where you live. Not that. Not I hope you succumb to the same fate as the victims. That's maybe a death wish, but not a death threat, which is a very different thing. Because a threat suggests action after the words. That's hope. There's no action after the words. It's not a threat. It's so different.
Promises of boycotts against the publications she works for. She's written an article for Maclean's, and she freelances for the Globe and Mail, for example. All right, we're showing.
So basically, they're not commenting about what she said. That's not the issue. It's all right to say that. And the thing is, it is all right. People can say whatever they want. But if you're going to talk about it, surely it's not about the responses. Out of the different things that are being said here, it's not the hate speech of the people responding. There's a little bit more hatred and sexism and racism and, dare I say, ageism going on here. You seem to be missing it.
You a few of the messages available online here, and these are far from the worst. It's a problem we've seen before. Someone says something controversial online, and
it's not controversial. It's the sort of thing that if it was on the other foot and we mentioned women or black people, we'd be arrested and in prison. It's not that it's controversial, and you know that. This is incredible. And this is where we've got, this is where we've come to, this is where we are now, this is what our society is.
And it goes viral. And then the horde descends. As a country, is the level of discussion and debate falling because of that?
What are you talking about, the horde descending? Do you know how the internet works? Do you know what happens when someone puts something on Twitter? No hordes have descended. People have responded. Not as a horde, not as mob mentality. They're all individuals. They didn't ring each other up. No one's got in contact with anyone. They didn't start a Facebook page, let's go mad on her. They responded as individuals. Now, you can collectivise those individuals by looking at them as a one and calling them a mob and calling it mob mentality. No, this is individuals responding to her.
And what should we do when the level is lowered to threats, death threats and bullying?
Show us one. Have you got one? Because I can't help but think if you had one, you'd show it to us. And you haven't. I wonder why.
Let's hear from our panel. In Ottawa, Jeremy Diaz, he is the executive director. Jeremy is the executive director of the Canadian Centre for Gender and Sexual Diversity.
Soy boy.
In Toronto, Brittany Andrew-Amofa is a senior policy research analyst at the Broadbent Institute. And in
Soy girl.
Toronto is Michael Coren, author and columnist. We reached out to Nora Loretto for a response to all that's happened this week. Here's what she had to say. As a writer who tackles systemic oppression, racism, sexism...
Fuck you. You've just proven yourself to be racist and sexist. Fuck off.
Etc. No one who follows my writing was surprised by my tweets. Inequality follows us in death as it follows us in life. But...
what am I missing here? Am I missing something?
My tweets have been misconstrued and smeared into the faces of so many in mourning, and I'm so angry and so sad that this has caused others pain.
Oh, it's other people's interpretation of what you said. Sure.
No one should face what I have.
You don't get to choose how people respond to what you put in public. If you don't want people to reply to you, don't say anything, because you don't get to choose how other people respond. Now, I know in your utopia, your fucking brave new world, you would have it so that people aren't allowed to be in any way negative, and that would be your decision, what was and what wasn't negative. You want everyone to agree with you, and nothing else is allowed through. Well, I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that, I mean, it looks like it's going that way, but at the moment, people are still allowed to disagree. Oh, can you imagine? They didn't like what you said. They had a different opinion and they wanted to tell you because you put it in public. You put it on their phones. You put it on their laptops. You put it in their front room and they're responding. I'm sorry they don't agree with you, but luckily, we are not yet all the same.
Tens of thousands of messages, death threats.
Show one.
Threats to my family.
Show one.
Phone calls and threats to my various employers. The messages have been mostly vile.
Yeah, because people thought that your message was mostly vile. Do you understand that? You didn't mean to be cynical, but the fact they were white and men, yeah, people don't like that. Sorry.
This is the cost of daring to mention systemic racism and...
Honestly, have I missed something? I'm going to stop this here because this is driving me mad. But have I missed something? Please tell me in the comments, because I think I must have done. What haven't I got right here? And I'm not just saying that. This isn't rhetoric. What am I missing? Surely I've missed something, because this is a new level of ridiculous. There's so much spin going on here. I feel like planets are going to be attracted to this fucking story.